Reader Mail.
Number 12.
Hello and welcome to Triangle Squared, a Reader Mail podcast. I'm your host, Brett Beck, and alongside me, Mr.
Saul Bridges, bringing you guys Lucky Reader Mail 12. For those that don't know, this is our extra segment of the Triangle Squared podcast. A little bit more adult friendly than, of course, our normal professional selves, at least on Triangle Squared. If you really want to see us let loose, go check out our new podcast, Dickish at Best. But we ask you guys to ask us questions on Twitter, Facebook, Patreon, YouTube, even though it's technically not included anymore. Feel free to do so if you want. And Discord.
It's not included, but do it.
Yeah. But in Discord. So that way we every 2 weeks we answer your guys' questions on Reader Mail, all of them as of now, and you can hear our answers here on this episode today. We start on Facebook, go to Twitter, and then finish off with Discord. And don't forget to check out our normal episodes of Triangle Squared every Monday at 10 a.m. PST, noon Central Time, for those that are interested in some more PlayStation podcast goodness. Brett, take us off on Facebook.
All right, starting this thing off right, we have a series of questions from Mr. Vincent Hull.
Are they lightning questions?
Not necessarily, but
Okay.
You know what? Some of them can kind of be moved through quickly because we've inadvertently discussed them, so that works out.
Okay.
These were posted, these questions were before E3, and I think we ended up talking about some of them at E3 or with our E3 coverage. I wish we went to E3, but, it is what it is. Let's see. Mr. Vincent Hull says, thoughts on the upcoming game Cyberpunk 2077. If you go back and watch the episode we just released this week, so that's Triangle Squared episode 116. It's our E3 recap as well as us discussing whether we thought it was smart or not for Sony to skip out and whether anyone else should. But in that, we actually talked about Cyberpunk a little bit, but I'll expound a little bit more. I have been excited for Cyberpunk since the initial little teaser picture that showed the female with the extended arms with like the spikes going out, just because I thought it was a really cool looking thing. I'd actually never heard of the Cyberpunk board game that it was based around, or the world it was based around. So of course I just see this thing with mechs, or not even mechs, but like augmented humans, I guess is the best way to call it. And I thought, okay, that's cool. I like that. Some of the same imagery that made me think I would like Deus Ex, even though that was apparently not true. So anyway, when going through that, I mean, the more they've shown at it every time, and on top of the fact that it is from the developer who made The Witcher 3, which I do think is one of the best games of this generation, I'm incredibly excited, and every time they show something else, I get more and more excited. All the way down to smart decisions, I think, even though the game's in first person, and I think that's a point of contention for some people who really love The Witcher, and it being a third-person traditional, Western RPG, where this one's going towards a first-person shooter. I think it's a throw-off for a little bit of people, but I think they've made smart concessions in some areas where, like driving, you can switch between first and third person, and I think that that's a huge plus. But yeah, I'm incredibly excited. I pre-ordered the collector's edition. I want to see them. I want to see what they're going to do with this, and I appreciate the idea so far that they've been showing, and I like the idea of a dystopian future where it's all about the body no longer being sacred and instead being something that people just toy around with. It's something that I really liked that they did mess around with a little bit. And if you've watched Netflix's adaptation of Carbon, Lord, what is it called? How am I skipping out on this? Altered Carbon. I always do that. I have to start looking it up. Altered Carbon does that a lot too. There's a thing where they have people that don't want to participate in the thing, and they have their chips codified as I think it was Neo-Catholic is what it was. So they consider their bodies to be sacred, and when they pass, they didn't want their little disc thing that holds their identity to be put in a new sleeve. And I thought that was a cool thing to talk about in a world that has gone so devolved from what we're used to today, that people are so willing to just be like, oh, I died, doesn't matter what my body was because I am more than my body, which is a weird sentence because it gives you a disregard for your body. So I'm curious to see how the game explores those themes, and I am excited for one. So that's me.
Yeah, it's one of my most anticipated games coming out in the next couple of years, now that we got a good solid release date. And I am very, very excited. And Very curious to see how it's going to play out. As not a huge fan of The Witcher, I think that I'm going to really love this game because the nature of the game, the style of the game, and I really love futurism style stuff like this. So it's going to get way easier for me to get into than The Witcher 3 was. So
for you, what do you think it is about in terms of it? When you meant style, just my own curiosity clarification. When you mean style, do you specifically just mean the futuristic setting, or do you specifically mean the first person?
The cyberpunk style.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. The way neon lights, cool looking.
Oh, the city
dirty
looks
robotics.
dope.
Yeah. The very dirty soundtrack is great.
Yeah. Very synth heavy. All right. Next one up from Vince is, what character or person would you like to see as a Funko Pop?
I don't really like Funko Pop, so I don't really have an answer.
Yeah, I know you didn't. Obviously, I do, or I have in the past, and I still like them. But honestly, in my effort to not be so foolish with my money, I've actually really culled down on buying them. I haven't bought them in a long time. If I was going to answer one, for a long time when I was collecting every single one of the Kingdom Hearts ones, one of the ones I wanted to see was Sora in line form, but we've got that now with the E3 one. And even though I didn't buy it because I'm trying to save my money again with all the remodeling and stuff I'm doing, I do think that one's an awesome one. And since this was asked, that would have been my answer if I would have answered this immediately when you asked it. But now that we're 2 weeks in to the future, it's interesting. So that would definitely be one of them. But I'm slowing down.
Bahamut would be cool.
Honestly, I'm a little surprised. I think they have, because I think you could get Smaug.
I said Bahamut.
Oh, Bahamut. I thought you said the Hobbit. I was like,
no.
Wow. Yeah, we've talked about Final Fantasy ones before. So do you specifically mean from Final Fantasy?
Yeah, I knew that shouldn't have been typed into Google like that, but yeah.
No, they don't have any Final Fantasy ones.
There's a Final Fantasy. Oh yeah, there is a Final Fantasy trading card game.
Yes, there is.
Boy.
Next question up. He asked, what do you consider to be your secret talent or superpower? Ooh, that's a question. My secret talent, while Saul stews on his, and it's actually a little bit of a double-edged sword, I am very quick at picking up on almost anything, but because of that, I feel like I have a really hard time mastering anything.
I could see that. I think my superpower is my metabolism.
Yeah, that's true. There was the longest running joke in the world that Saul had a I still believe it, that Saul had a tapeworm. He's put on a little bit of weight though, so it's not
I've
as
lost
bad as
that weight.
But you put it on, so you proved to me that it wasn't a tapeworm. But then you lost it because you quit drinking.
Well, the tapeworm just woke up. That's all it was.
It hibernated. It was like, oh, okay, I'm full with all the Wendy's and the. I swear, you just have to know. You have to go to Wendy's with this man and realize that he'll get a Dave's double.
Not anymore.
Okay, but I'm talking about
now. But back then, I would eat a Dave's double with large fries, and I'd still be hungry.
And then
I'd
he'd
get
go back
Frosty.
up and be like, I'm going to get a Frosty.
Yeah.
And he'd still be hungry like an hour later and be like, I want to go Burger King.
Yeah, I was just like, it's ridiculous.
It was incredible. I have never seen a bottomless pit of food. But honestly, I used to think, like, why is Saul not going to food eating competitions? Because you could have murdered them. And I mean, like, even outside of that, going to the place, it's like, eat this whole steak and you get it for free.
If I pace myself, actually, that'd be pretty fun to just try. But I don't think anybody around here does that anymore.
I still think you could. You know what I mean?
Possibly, yeah.
I don't know about around here, but there's definitely places that do that. I don't know what it is about humans that like to see people gorge themselves, but that's what we do. Okay, let's see. Favorite emoji?
I don't like emojis that much unless I'm using them, like, unironically.
Unironically?
I mean, ironically.
But say, because I use them. I started off using them incredibly ironically. And then I got to the point where a lot of the times when I just wanted to be like, okay, yeah, I understand, got it, I would just do the
it's almost
okay thing.
Yeah, it's almost replaced like LOL. You know, people don't signify LOL anymore as they're laughing. They signify that they're in a good mood. So it's kind of like I will use them now for that.
I kind of get what you mean with that.
Or unless I'm talking about my kitty, then there's all kinds of emojis in there.
Yeah, I don't know. Emojis are weird. I've never dived into them. I'm sure that there is one that exists that if I probably would have looked, it would actually be really funny. But I mean,
there's a lot of them.
I just don't pay enough attention to them. What one thing, toy, food, drink, show, etc. Boy, that's a range from the 90s. Do you wish would make a comeback? In terms of really, really strong relevance, actually, Saul and I had a discussion the other day at my birthday party. It was Beyblade, I think, is where I land on it, because a lot of stuff is still very relevant. I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is as relevant as it ever was. Pokemon.
What year did Duel Masters come out?
99? Is that right?
I think so. Maybe early 2000s.
Duel Masters was pretty cool.
If Duel Masters fits in the 90s, I'm gonna say Duel Masters for sure. Because Beyblades are still around. Duel Master cards are not. Because Duel Masters was essentially the precursor to Magic the Gathering for me, in a weird way, because it's played the same where you tap, and it's just a great card game. I just really, really wish. And then what was it called that made a comeback? Like it was itself but rebooted. They made a new card game that was replacing. It just came out like 4 or 5 years ago, maybe. And maybe a little bit longer.
You talking about Card Fight Vanguard?
No, that was good though.
That game was awesome.
That game was good.
You were right though. Duel Masters made like a sequel. Is that what you call it to what it is? And see, it gets hard to look this stuff up because, of course, Duel Masters started off as a manga, so it gets kind of interesting to figure out.
Kajito.
Is that what it was called? Kajito? Yeah,
I think so.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. When did this come out?
Yes, Kaijudo. That's what it was.
Kaijudo, that's what it is.
Yes,
yeah, Kaijudo.
Kaijudo Showdown. Yeah, weird times, man. The 90s had so much stuff that was iconic, though, if I'm being real.
Probably this came out in 2004.
But Beyblades...
This game did, at least.
Oh, wow. Beyblades, though, for me, are one of those weird things that because of the fact that they were just so easy for everyone to understand, they were almost more universal than Pokemon cards, because Pokemon cards had a level of universality to them where almost everybody wanted them, but very few kids actually understood how to play the Pokemon game. The card game. It happened with Yu-Gi-Oh! As well. You'd get the cards because they look cool and the show was cool, but a lot of the times, most of the kids wouldn't actually understand dueling to an adequate level unless you're around a certain group of people who just really got obsessed with it. But the thing that made Beyblade's so fun is you'd go to school, and definitely me in the fourth and going into the fifth grade, our school had these big basin, completely like bowl-shaped sinks with little bitty drain holes in them, so we'd use them as makeshift Beyblade arenas, and we'd bring our Beyblades to school and rip them out in the bathroom and battle them out, and we'd do fun stuff like, one of my favorite things about Beyblade was when you would do essentially the equivalent of a pink slip duel for your Beyblade. So you'd get people's bit chips, and that was fun because you could like slap a Dragoon bit chip into your Dronzer and be like, I got your bit chip. It was just fun.
Apparently, you can still buy brand new Duel Masters decks on eBay for like $10 brand new.
Boy, I wonder what it would be like now. So removed from it. I've not played Duel Masters since probably 2003.
I wish Card Fight Vanguard became the next thing.
And it just did not, but it was incredibly fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it for me. I think that one's really good.
Yeah, me too.
How would you take over the world, Saul?
I'm too lazy for
that. Cocaine and food. No, I'm kidding. That would be terrible.
I don't know.
But if we're talking about effective, you know what I mean? It's like, to some extent, if you can control what people want to put in their body, you can kind of get them to do anything, right? So isn't that the idea behind?
Yeah, I guess
subversive taking over of the world? Do it in a way that's almost inadvertent, not something that's just beat you over the head to have to do with sheer force, but instead something you can do slowly over time. FDA and stuff like that would make it really hard to get away with, but you might be able to squeeze it by.
I don't really know how I would. Trust me, if I figured out, you'd know.
You'll know when I'm pressing my boot to your neck.
Yeah, you all know.
Okay, he asked, who would win, Jackie Chan or Jet Li? Please provide your reasoning.
No, Jackie Chan.
Jet Li.
No.
You want to know why?
Why?
Jet Li killed every other version of himself across millions and multiples of universes.
I think that Jackie Chan actually has more studied martial arts than Jet Li.
I don't even care. I'm talking specifically about the one, which is one of the greatest movies ever made. I love it so much.
Is that? Well, hold on. Let me make sure.
There's multiple Jet Li movies that were really great.
Well, is this the Jet Li movie with the mirrors?
No, this is the one. Well, what do you mean by mirrors?
I remember a mirror room in one of them.
Okay, I don't think that's what you're talking about. But the one is essentially where he goes through, and there are multiple universes, or a multiverse essentially, where there are a bunch of different versions of the same people in all these universes. So what happens is your life energy is shared across all of these versions of yourself, and that's what kind of keeps an equilibrium of everybody. But as you continue to kind of kill off, or as people start to die, the rest of that energy that was in them gets spread evenly across the people. So the idea is that the more and more you kill those people, the energy gets more evenly distributed across those two.
I remember
so
that
the final thing comes down to being only 2 versions of Jet Li's character left, and they have to fight each other. And it's got some of the classic moments in there, like which one is the real one and all that stuff. But it's done so well. And I also just think it's a really ball-in premise. So.
And for some reason, I thought they had already fought before, but it was Bruce Lee. So it wasn't Jackie Chan and Jet Li, it was Bruce Lee. So that's interesting.
Yeah, because Jet Li is, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, he's
in all
quite a bit.
He's in all the IP movies, isn't he? IP Man?
No, I thought. Well, actually, he might be. I don't think so. I thought IP Man was that other.
I've never watched any
fella.
of those. Or Ip Man.
I know. I think it's called IP Man.
No, I've heard people actually pronounce.
Boy, there's
it
so
loud.
many of them that were good. Fearless was good. The One was good. Unleashed was cool as hell. But these are movies I've watched so long ago.
I'm not a fan of Jet Li. Like, I've never seen him in anything.
How old is Jet Li? He's 56 years old.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And let's see, how old is Jackie Chan? Because that's going to play a part in it
60
too.
or 70? No, he's
65.
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to give Jet Li the benefit of just being a little bit younger.
Because I remember a couple of years ago,
on
or
top
whatever
of
it was, it came out that was it? No, maybe not. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. No, I'm thinking about something else. Never mind.
Okay. Well, there you go. I think that Jet Li is the person for me, but Saul seems set on.
You know who won't win?
Who?
Brandon Lee.
Oh, ouch.
Still waiting on that Crow remake that will be terrible.
Ouch.
I love Crow. Wait, what did I say?
You
Crow
said the Crow remake.
Okay, I thought I said Crow Man. I'm like, wait a second. No, the original Crow was great.
Oh, great movie. All the sequels are hit or miss.
They're very miss.
And it sucks because it's another one of those examples of movies being over-sequelized for no real reason.
Exactly.
But, things happen. Last question on this little set, and then we'll go up to the next one. This is from Vincent. What game has given you the best immersive experience? Now, that's a question.
Skyrim.
If I had to say, and this is kind of a weird answer, I would say because of the way that the medium works on top of the thing, my answer is Skyrim, but it's Skyrim VR.
VR, yeah.
And I think Skyrim VR is one of, and it's very closely followed by Firewall Zero Hour and Resident Evil 7. All of them are VR because that really changed the game on what immersion really is, because VR is actually immersive. It's you putting yourself into a world, and what you do 9 times, at least in our current state, a lot of what you do gets re-represented in the game, and there is nothing more immersive than that. And it's true immersion. So in that sense, I think it's going to be a lot of VR titles, but it's those exactly because you get a sense of really being there because of it.
Yeah. And, well, I will say the mods did it for me on Xbox. Like, I already, whenever I was played it the first time, it was great.
Well, you played with a survival mod, correct?
I played with a survival mod, a start your new life mod, total Tamriel darkness or whatever it's called, where it's actually really dark and you have to have a torch. Lanterns, where they actually scattered realistic looking lanterns about the area of the world where it actually made sense where they would be to kind of help you, guide you through that dark stuff like that.
Okay.
And it made it really immersive.
I could see that. Just immersive in the sense of
stuff like
the mods gave you a higher level of control than the Elder Scrolls games already do.
Yeah, and then I did stuff like turn the HUD off, and then I got a mod that was no kill cam because I hate kill cam when you're using a bow and arrow because it's like every 5 arrows there's a kill cam.
Mm-hmm. I want to give a special shout out and do a game that's not quite VR related, just so I can have an answer that's not tied into a peripheral that not a lot of people have. I think very recently I want to say Hellblade, and the biggest reason for Hellblade was smart use of no HUD. I think that was a really great choice for the way they were going through, but the sound design. It is one of the few games outside of, actually Vince is the one who told me to do this, in my recent playthrough of A Plague Tale, Innocence. It was another great example of people using sound design to really great effect. But it plays such a big part in the way that I think that you literally have to play Hellblade, that I think you can do it without headphones, but you're doing yourself a massive disservice because it really sells the idea of transferring are you living the life of somebody who's having a mental issue, breakdown, whatever it is, mental illness, and kind of getting audio cues and stuff like that make you even doubt yourself in the moments. It's really cool. I liked it a lot. So shout out to them. That's definitely it.
Gotta play that game with a headset.
I definitely agree. One of the few games that I really have the idea in my mind of like, if you're not playing with a headset, you're doing it incredibly wrong. I've even seen people who have not played the game and watched it on YouTube and ended up loving it, go back and play the game just so they can experience it with the headset. And once I told them to do that and they did it, they came back and were amazed by how much different the experience was. And that's exactly what you want. But here we are. We have another question. Next one up is from Mr. Josh Shoop. He asks, not a question so much as a challenge. Create the ultimate supergroup in your personal opinion. Music, of course. Of course, this comes with a challenge. You can put as many people as you want in your band. That's interesting. However, they cannot be people that are already in the same band. Minimum requirement is at least one guitar player, one bass player, one drummer, and one vocalist. You can have whatever instruments you want after that minimum requirement. After you have put together your band, what kind of music will they play? It cannot be the style that predominant members are known for, which is really hard.
Yeah, I can't do this. I can't do this in a question of reader mail. That's impossible. There's no way I can answer this
have an
in
example,
less
though.
than 30 minutes.
If you have 3 guys that are in a rock band and one guy that's from country music, you cannot have them playing rock music, but country would be fine.
Well,
so if you want to use one person that you want to linchpin the style onto, you can. You know what I mean? So it's not that you have to completely avoid them.
Everything's from the same genre, pretty much. I mean, in
all
a way,
pop punk.
No, Muse
Metalcore.
wouldn't be in pop punk.
Okay.
What's not Matt? That's the lead singer. What's the bassist from Muse?
I do not know.
Chris. Okay, because Matt is the lead singer. I'm pretty sure. Let me double check that. Yeah, Matt Bellamy. But yeah, if I had to answer this. Okay, let's see. I'm going to do Chris, the bassist from Muse. I'm going to do Tillian, the lead singer of Dance Gavin Dance.
Yeah.
I'm going to do... Can I have 2 bassists? Can I have Geddy Lee as a bassist too?
If you want to, go for it.
I'm going to have Geddy Lee as another bassist.
He said you can have as many instruments as you want after that.
I'm going to have... Who do I want my drummer to be?
I'm going through this myself right now.
I'm trying to do it kind of quickly because I know if I put too much thought into it, I'm going to take way too long to answer this question.
Oh, I know. I get you, man. Trust me. I get you.
Let's see. Who's my lead guitarist, actually? Okay, well, I'll do Will Swan.
Okay.
From Dance Gavin Dance.
Yeah. And you know what? You actually have a pretty good mix of genres right now.
Yeah.
So you can lean on one pretty easily, actually. And honestly, your cheat answer would go with Will Swan style because he has genre bending, so you can just cover a lot of genres at once.
Well, yeah. He could be jazz if I wanted to.
Yeah.
What is Muse really considered?
It's hard, right? And the bigger question of this is that we're gonna have to take a couple of liberties.
Alternate rock / progressive rock.
We're gonna have to take a couple of liberties here, Josh, because one of the things that gets weird in music is subgenres, and how much those subgenres really matter.
Well, no, I'm just gonna go complete different subgenre too.
Oh yeah,
so all these people,
you know, his example was overarching genres. Like
no, this is not
if
gonna
they're
be
rock people.
This is gonna be a country band.
Hold on, Will Swan in the country band?
Yeah, can you imagine?
I can actually. It's the problem.
Screw, we'll put Dead Mouse in there with the drum machine.
Okay. All right. Let me make sure that I have my list working up right. The last thing I'm trying to really figure out is drummer, and it's killing me.
I would just go with I know his name's not Callin, but that's all I always think his name is. Drummer from Slipknot. I can't even remember his name.
Joey Jordison's the original, and then Jay Weinberg.
Is it Jay?
Jay Weinberg, I'm pretty sure is his last name. Yes, he is the drummer for Slipknot right now, and he's Bruce Springsteen's son. Or no, hold on.
Either one.
Don't let me lie about it being Bruce Springsteen.
Oh. Sorry,
he's the son of American drummer Max Weinberg, and Max Weinberg is the drummer known for playing for Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, okay.
I knew that there was a tie-in there.
So yeah, this is going to be a country band, and I'm going to have two bassists in a country band.
This is a great question just because of how crazy it's going to be.
And then I'll have
Here's the thing.
Drum machine.
I'm trying to think of a drummer for me.
Dang, Tillian doesn't really fit vocals for a country band, but that's fine.
That's going to be outside of the rest of this. I actually feel like I've got a really odd genre mix in terms of what I have built up so far. But the one thing I need to finish.
Is Sonny Moore in yours?
Huh?
Sonny Moore in yours?
No.
Oh, okay.
Even
what
though
do you mean no? You like from first to last?
I like From First to Last, but I like everything that From First to Last did with Spencer infinitely better. The remakes of the songs from the Sunny era that Spencer did on the new album were freaking amazing. Not Make War. Make War was their first song back with Sunny Moore. So it was Ride the Wings of Pestilence and Note to Self.
Note to Self is what I'm thinking. That's their most famous song.
Yeah, but dude, the version with Spencer singing it is loads better. It's
Spencer
mixed better.
Periphery?
Spencer, yeah.
Is Sunny Moore in there?
Nope. No, the whole album Dead Trees is with Spencer from
I
Periphery.
might have to go
vocals.
listen to that then.
It's amazing.
Because
I love it so much.
I did not like Sunny Moore as a singer.
Yeah, he's okay.
He's not bad.
I do have a soft spot for Dear Diary, my teenage bullshit as a body count or whatever. My teen angst, I think, is actually the name of the album. But I like that album, even if it's just because of age. You know what? I'm going to throw me... I know who my drummer is going to be in this. And it's going to be really weird, but I'm okay with it. Okay, here's mine. The guitar player, I don't think anybody's going to know this one, is going to be Keaton Goldwire. He's a guitar player for a band that
Don
does...
Bronco.
No, but even though Don Bronco is actually a great use in this.
Yeah.
I wish I'd have thought of that, but I'm not going to use them now. So Keaton Goldwire, he's a guitar player for a band called Invent Animate, and they are, for lack of a better term, I'm literally on their Wikipedia page because they're essentially metalcore, but they've got this thing that a lot of metalcore bands I don't feel like encapsulate very well, which is this incredible, and I mean incredible, ability to create a sense of atmosphere in their music that's almost insane.
Yeah, they're on a tour with, or they were with Northlane.
I'm sad their vocalist left, and I love him.
I'll have to look into them.
But they're great. I love them a lot.
So what kind of music you doing? Or what? Go ahead and list
Hold
off
on,
your whole band.
I got to keep going, and I got to look up this dude's name because it's just that it's Swedish, and I always forget it.
Going with PewDiePie.
Yes, that's exactly it. Okay, here we are. My vocals, and I had to really choose between these two. I had a different setup at first, but my setup for a little bit was going to be Mike Semeski, who was the guy who did...
I was about to say Mike Sinatra.
No, Mike Semeski, he's the guy who did the vocals on the One Intervals album that has vocals, A Voice Within, aptly named album.
Yeah, that's a fantastic album.
Dude, I love...
That's the only album I like.
I love his vocals. He's got this really, really rich mid-tone, and he doesn't have a crazy range outside of that, but it's so rare that you get such a great mid-tone in that situation, and it's part of why I really liked the last record, not the newest one coming up, but the last record from Hands Like Houses. He really utilized his voice in the mid-range a lot, and it
Wait, what do you mean? He's the lead
effect.
singer in Hands Like Houses?
No.
Okay.
No. But I'm just saying a different band that
like,
also
wait a
used...
second.
Yeah.
Hold on.
A different band that also uses mid-range vocals to a great deal of extent. But I'm going to rescind that. It was going to be Mike Semeski doing clean vocals with Mike Shinoda rapping.
I was going to say, what about Mike Shinoda?
And it was going to be funny because they're both named Mike. So the band was going to be called Mike
Prison
and Mike.
Oh.
Mike and Mike, but the second Mike would be a little M, so it'd look like it was Mike and Ike.
Yeah.
But,
have them all wear the same color.
Bring in Ike Turner, and then you can make Mike and Ike. No. But anyway, I'm going to pull back from that, even though that would have been really fun. And I'm going to pull in for vocals. There's a band called Catatonia, who I fucking love. They're so good. And
sorry if you
they're the Swedish people. And the singer's name is Jonas Rinks. I literally don't know how to say it. I've seen his name a million times, but Jonas, he's amazing, and I love him. One of the greatest albums of all time is Catatonia's. It's a great Cold Distance. Go check it out if you like this style of music at all. They are essentially metal. I wouldn't even call them metalcore. I mean, they're metal band. That's what they're classified as. So then we're going to go over and add a little back end. Since we've already got a little bit of atmosphere on the guitar from Invent Animate, I want to couple the heavy atmosphere that you get from like a metalcore / I don't even know what subgenre you start going into with that atmosphere.
No, that's cheating. You can't put him in there.
Yes, I can. No, why can't I?
No, that's cheating.
How is that cheating?
It's a literal wild card. He can do anything. Take him out.
No, I refuse.
Take him out.
Trent Reznor's going in there.
No, take him out. He's
Trent Reznor goes in there to be
card.
my synth man.
No.
So he can...
He can literally do anything.
He's my synth man.
No.
And there's a reason. Because he gets to cover synth.
I can't believe I didn't think of him.
He gets to cover my synth backgrounds, but he also gets to handle all my drumming. And the reason I say
and
that...
production. and
Yes.
everything if he really wants to.
Okay, but that's also like saying Nolly from Periphery. He literally helps write and
I'm just
record.
going to say Trent Reznor is my whole band, and he's going to be making country rap.
Okay, anyway, Trent Reznor is going to be in there as my synth, but that's not going to be his main purpose. His main purpose is to be my back-end drummer and create that beautiful bed of really atmospheric beats to be my drumming back-end for the guitar. And I want to see how those, this would be like in a dream, right? I really would love to see how that kind of shift between the two writing would actually overlay, and if it would juxtapose in a good way or if it would be terrible. But in my mind, I think it'd be cool.
We'll see. I mean, well, I guess we'll never see, really.
Yes. Travis Barker.
I knew it.
Is going to be another drummer.
He's a good drummer, though.
He is, but it's punk music. So it's just going to be chill Trent Reznor beats here and there for some things, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then he's going to have synth.
So what is your genre?
But then we're going to have, huh?
What's your genre, then? Drum and beat? I swear to God.
It's drum and beat.
Jesus Christ.
But listen... This is amazing.
I don't want to listen to that, or you.
And I want to see what this would sound like. So there you go. I don't know if you know who literally any of those people are. Well, you know who Travis Barker is. Everyone knows who Travis Barker is at this point. But there you go.
I hope everybody knows who
Trent Reznor is at this point as well. Oh, no. I closed out of Facebook because I'm an idiot. Actually, I might have.
Just restore old tab. Control TR. Or
hold up.
It is.
Here we are. I got back to it.
What is restore old tab on hotkeys?
I have no clue. But there you go. That's that one. I got to go find the next one up since this is having to reload now. But Josh, that is your answer. Hope that gives you something to work with that's odd, if nothing else. You can't say I never did anything for you. That was a weird, long question. But
so I guess we're moving on to Discord. Or wait.
No, we still got more Facebook. Give me a second.
I thought you just said that's the last question.
Last question from that section.
Oh, okay.
We got a couple more. Mr. Michael Scott Potter Schneider. Love it. He is... First time that I can remember him asking a question. I could be wrong on that, Michael.
Never heard that name in my life.
But either way, he says, do you listen to any other gaming or unrelated podcast? I'm a big fan, I think is what he meant. I'm a big fan of the Duck Feed Network and Literate Gamer. When I was heavy into Souls, Don't Give Up Skeleton was a regular show too.
Don't Give Up Skulls.
Skeleton.
Don't Give Up Skeleton. Yeah, it's pretty good. I've only listened one or two, I think, though. Go away, Cortana. But I will say that I watch the Rooster Teeth podcast, and then I watch it's called Off Topic, but it's made by the same people at Rooster Teeth, aka Achievement Hunter, and that's kind of it. But I don't even watch them that much. I watch the Rooster Teeth podcast depending on who's on there, because I don't like some people, they don't vibe well. I like the original crew, but yeah, that's pretty much it now.
I listen to, because I don't have a lot of time, so I don't listen to any of the gaming ones, at least regularly, and I mean literally a podcast. I do check every now and then some of Callin's stuff that he does. I really actually make it a goal to specifically avoid his PlayStation podcast, because now that we're doing one, and even though I'm really glad that he's back into doing podcasting and specifically gaming and PlayStation,
can bleed over.
I don't want there to be any accidental, I don't want it to somehow accidentally stain and bleed something in that I didn't intend to do, and us end up talking about the same thing, or even taint my opinions with his. I'd rather my opinions be my own. So a lot of the times I really focus on not listening to gaming stuff so that I don't end up repeating things and forming opinions based off of other people's words around it. Instead, let it all be from me. So that's an important thing for me just as a person to not want to get into. I do sometimes listen to gaming stuff that I don't feel like would taint an opinion on this, or that wouldn't taint a normal opinion that I'd go about sharing. But I just do it selectively. I love Joe Rogan, though, because he has a literal cast of people on.
Yeah, Joe Rogan.
It's very easy for me to put on while I'm working and just kind of play through and listen. And also going to give a shout out to Duncan Trussell's podcast, the Family Hour podcast. It's awesome.
Joe Rogan's good depending on the guest as well. I won't watch every one, but if as a guest, that looks really interesting, or somebody I know that I like. I
take chances a lot because sometimes I won't know who they are, and I'll end up enjoying the episodes a lot of the time.
It's kind of weird.
It is seldom that I start one and stop it.
Yeah, it's kind of weird for me because every now and then when I take a chance, it always ends up being really, really political talk, and I'm just like, I don't want this.
I don't mind the political talk. Personally, I actually enjoy it because one of the things I like about, and this is a point of contention for some people, I know not everybody thinks that Joe Rogan pushes against his guest enough, but I like it because a lot of the time Joe does a good job about pushing against ideas that he doesn't necessarily agree with, or that he doesn't feel like you're giving enough reasoning behind, and he's a pretty left person, even though some people want to throw him on the right. and he'll get some right people on there here and there. And what I like about it is it does, even when I do listen to those, which I don't listen to all of them, but when I do listen to those, it does feel like I'm at least getting a balanced take on it.
Right.
As much as possible. I feel like if I was going to listen to anybody go against it, Joe, even when sometimes he agrees, will still push against things just to try and get your real stance and why you feel that way. And I appreciate that. But more importantly, I actually just really love Joe's ones where he has other comedians on and it's just funny and rolling, or he'll have somebody who just did something really interesting like read a book or something like that. And I actually really thought the one he had with the guy who handled vaccinations for kids was pretty interesting, and just going into, which is obviously a big topic right now, is should you vaccinate your kids or not. So I enjoy it for the fact that I feel like I get some minor form of education while I'm doing other work, and that's 9 times out of 10 where I'm listening to it, or if I'm driving to an out-of-town customer because I do sales. But yeah, that's definitely it. Thanks for the question, man.
Yeah, thank you.
I doubt we showed you or introduced you to any podcasts that you didn't already know about, but those are the ones that we like. Justin Bedford, also a new person asking questions, says, do you think PlayStation have subtly won E3 this year without even being there? If you do read out my question, please just refer to me as JB. Oops. Well, JB, messed that one up. But here we are. JB, I'm going to say we kind of talked about that this week. I'm not going to say that they subtly won, because I think if anything, it's hard to win something that you're not in attendance for, because they didn't even do and I'm not saying they should have. I genuinely don't know the best way to handle this, but I think there could be an argument that they won E3 without being there by doing a state of play that wasn't announced as E3 related or anything, but just sneaking it in during E3 week.
But they didn't.
And
like everybody thought they would.
And I think that that's probably a good thing that they didn't, is that everybody thought they would, and it almost would come off as too much. But I also think there's really a point that they know that they've shown a lot of the stuff that's going to be big enough to warrant E3 already, and that's why they even talked about opting out of going. And I think everything that they've shown this year so far through their state of plays is that it's stuff that I enjoy, and I think I really enjoy it more in the state of play format, even though I don't think the format's perfect. It does need work and tuning, but they've only done 2 of them. I think they need a little more time under their belt to get this format exactly right and understand how to show stuff, what to show, and all that stuff. But I'm going to say that I don't really know that I have an answer for this, because it does get down to the point where I think that I genuinely have a problem saying that they won when they weren't there, because you can't necessarily win a competition you didn't show up to, right?
Right.
I mean, I compare it to like another competition. If you were doing a decathlon and you were in a school debate or whatever it is, or and then you went over there and then you just they didn't even show up, you win because they didn't even show up. So not showing up to something that you were anticipated to show up at is a loss. But I want to give Sony the benefit of the doubt as well, that they made it painfully clear and early that they weren't going to be here. So I think that they just literally slid through this E3 with nothing. They didn't take a loss, they didn't make a win, but they just kind of did their thing, and that's probably for the best. I think if they showed up at E3 and would have tried to do a big conference, considering the fact they had shown a lot of their hand already, it would have actually been perceived, I think, by many, or at least definitely the media, as a loss.
I mean, yeah, and I still think that like this year Nintendo did a fantastic job, and I almost want to say with what we know that Sony's coming out with versus what we got at Nintendo, I think Nintendo was still to blow them out of the water.
Sure.
It's just because what I'm excited for personally, what I know this soon versus what I may know later on.
Yeah, I've got you. Okay, we got 2. I know we got 2 more right here. We'll get through those and make sure.
Are you sure is that recent?
That's for 12.
Okay, I thought you only said there's 2, but okay.
Here we are. Favorite, and this is from Josh Ayers, a patron. Thank you, good sir.
You, boy.
Favorite announcement from E3. Mine is either Final Fantasy VIII this year or Crystal Chronicles being reaffirmed for this year.
Astral Chain.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
Yeah, my favorite. Well, 2 things. Astral Chain, just seeing more of it, looks amazing. But technically, I already knew that. If I want to say a new announcement,
if I'm going to go with
Deathloop, because it's, even though I kind of criticize them for not showing enough on it, it's honestly a minor hype, not just crazy, but hype of just knowing that I like that studio and seeing what they're going to do next.
Yeah, and if I'm going to go with complete newer one that I didn't know was coming, it probably would be. Oh, that's a good question. What did I not know was coming this year that I really, really liked? Help me out here, Brett. What did we not know was coming? That was a complete surprise. This year was a lot of stuff that we knew about.
Yeah, I mean,
a couple indie games.
There was like Spiritfarer. You know, we did talk about how that looks really cool.
I don't know if that's my favorite though.
But a lot of stuff. I mean, if anything for you, I think if it was probably the most exciting thing that you had seen. What in the hell did you just do?
Turned your caps lock off.
Oh yeah, okay. But I think if anything. How do you feel about, and I mean entirely from a new announcement standpoint, how do you feel about Breath of the Wild 2 being here?
Okay, yeah, there we go. I knew I was forgetting something.
Yeah.
Did you see the way that falls in the timeline?
No.
Oh, okay.
But we can talk about that now or after.
It's in Twilight Princess timeline. The Ganondorf that is at the bottom of the well that they go to or whatever, that's the Ganondorf from Twilight Princess.
Nice.
Exactly the same one.
Nice.
So, Twilight Princess was a good game.
Okay.
Fun fact about that game, I played that completely backwards. I had the strategy guide for it for the Wii, and I played on the GameCube. And of course, the Wii was the reflected version. It had Link with a right-hand sword because of the Wiimote. So I was using the guide. It was like go east, and that meant west.
Dude, there was a lot of people who really did not like that that's the way they chose to do that.
What, reflected it?
Yeah, because it
it's
really
non-canon technically, or not.
Well, not even that. Why mirror it? It's literally unnecessary.
Well, because most people are right-handed, so they felt that if you swing the sword with your right hand, then the sword, Link swings it with his right hand.
My assumption really comes down to that they had to do that because they were going to the Wii. They had made the entire game and all the animations around it made for the left hand, and instead of doing something as simple as just reanimating Link, it wouldn't have been able to be that because I'm sure all the blocking and stuff from the enemies was all done as if you were attacking them from the left-hand side, and that might mean that you had to go through and mirror animations on every one of them. So instead they go mirror the whole damn game. But I just feel like that's a really weird way to go about doing things.
I think it ran better on the Wii too than the GameCube.
Oh, it might have. I don't know.
Yeah, I love.
They're very similar hardware.
I love Twilight. I really wish there was a remake of that.
There was on the Wii, but Wii U,
a system that's not
dead.
Yeah,
for lack of a better term,
dead than anything else.
All right, one more question, and this is from Mr. Josh Shoop. He says, "For Brett, what is your dream musical equipment?" Because I really did, I actually became a bass player almost. Without the intention to do it. We needed a bass player, and it's also how I became a vocalist for our band. We needed a vocalist, so we kind of just did this fill in as you go and try and figure it out. And we ended up working with the style that we wanted. The spoken word and screaming were both things that I had a natural ability to kind of lean toward, I think. And I actually ended up really liking bass. And one of the favorite things I ever had, and it was actually a really cool one, but it's not my dream one. I had for a little bit a Ibanez, and I really actually like the Ibanez series. I don't know why you lowered your
That's not that expensive.
No, it's not. But the Sound Gear Ibanez body, I think, is really, really comfortable. It's rounded off so it doesn't dig into you. And I know a lot of people crap on Ibanez, but I think this is what you do with Ibanez. You buy a guitar with a great weight ratio. It's comfortable to hold. It's not too heavy on one end or the other. It's got great build to it, build quality, goes down. The neck is comfortable. It's slim. It fits in your hand. It's actually the bass I have right now is a Sound Gear. But what I always wished I could have gotten was a fan fret version of it. Take it, and then what you actually want to do with an Ibanez, if you're dealing with dream guitar territory and you have the money and know-how or time to get the things done, is to actually rip out all of the electronics from the Ibanez, keep a great body, and then slap new electronics, new everything, new pickups, all of that into it. And I'm actually quite a fan of, and this is a real big point of contention as well, and it depends on the music you're playing, but I really do like a EMG pickup. Throw me an EMG humbucker in there just so I can kind of get some aggressive bass when I need to. But
dirty bass.
Throw me also in and I don't know why I can't think of the damn name of the pickup right now. I'm brain farting. But just a single coil that goes across to give you a smooth, kind of rounded when you're trying to do something that's a little more nuanced. Like a lot of our songs.
It's like a single coil jazz pickup?
Yeah, kind of. And the reason that I kind of go off of that, and specifically Seymour Duncan make great things for this.
They do.
And
they're not expensive either. They're only like $50, $60 per pickup.
They're great pickups. And part of the reason I love them is that they have this thing where they take the sound quality of anything you're doing, and as long as you have a body that really just ties up well with them, they're great pickups anyway. But I know from playing with a Sound Gear that had Seymour Duncans on it, the reason I want the EMG there is so I can get a little bit more aggressive on some of the choruses we do where I actually did punch in. But on some of the other parts, you've heard a lot of our songs.
Yeah.
A lot of our songs start with a little bit more of a very melodic and slow and atmospheric build up. And when you're doing that and you're doing real slow slides and stuff on the bass, and your bass part is there, but it's not in your face present, in terms of those parts where they're kind of more nuanced and working alongside. And I actually really like to play a different, when I play bass, I don't like to just follow a guitar player. I like to go a little bit out of the notes and get complementing notes that are actually nowhere touching the guitar, but create a cool back end. So that's what I like to do. And because of that little mixture gives you a really great thing. And what I really like about a couple of these guitars, like the one I have, has got a pickup. Not only can you switch between pickups, then you can actually switch to the level of hotness on the pickups that I already have on mine. So you can actually kind of create a semi-hot sound if you want to. And then if you still want to have a little bit of an edge to it and not go quite to that smooth rolling sound of the Seymour Duncan, you can actually just switch down, because mine doesn't have a Seymour Duncan, sadly. But what I normally do to get down as close as possible is it has like and I actually genuinely don't even know what it's called, because it's the first time I've ever seen it on a bass, but you can click down and it kind of lowers like how hot the pickups are. And it gives you a real close to that. And what I'll do is kind of saturate the bass a little more, so it's a little more rolly. And I like that. It tends to work for me. But give me that on a 5-string fan fret bass with a nice black quilted top. I'm a sucker for the quilted top that kind of goes into a quilt with the kind of a grayish in the middle, but with black on the edges. Beautiful. I just think they're good looking guitars. There are other great ones too, but I mean, when I think about bass, that's what I like, because it's 9/10 of that is legitimately just comfort and looks. So there's more, but that's also like a $1,500 guitar. And while I could afford that, it's just not rare that I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
My current bass was $600 and I like it a lot. It's very comfortable. I've debated, now that I don't do band stuff as much and I have the time to get away with it, switching out my pickups and actually pulling out all the electronics and doing it myself. We'll see.
Makes sense.
All right. I'm going to double check, but that should have been it.
You do that.
And then you'll be ready with Twitter?
Twitter.
All right. Did you see the thing that...
Yep.
Okay, because
that's the only one we have.
Pretty quick.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, cool. That works. All right, yeah, that's it.
All right, so our good
solid
buddy Derek, Life Reimagined on Twitter, says, I just want to get your opinion on something. So it was confirmed that Final Fantasy VII Remake will be episodic, and it's rumored to be the first one just covers Midgar. That is less than 10 hours of gameplay in the 1997 original, if I remember correctly. You do remember that correctly. He also goes on to say, ideally, each episode should be roughly 30 to 40 hours of gameplay to justify the $60. Do you guys have the same concern that I have, that they will put in a bunch of cutscenes and miscellaneous filter missions to extend the play time? And then he goes on to say, finally, I guess I'm just concerned that they are breaking it up to make a bunch of cash instead of just keeping it true to the original. I still get it, of course, because I love the original, but I have a feeling there's some backlash if it's just bloated to make it a longer game. Exactly what I've been saying.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to bring it up on here, is that this is a question. This is a topic that Saul and I have talked a little bit about on the show, but we've talked a lot about it.
I'm even
in
more
playing
concerned
Destiny
now.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, more concerned now that we know it's Midgar.
And as far as that's one thing I do want to say is, as far as I know, I mean, it's legitimately, unless I'm just remembering something wrong, it is confirmed that the first game is all Midgar.
It is, and here's a bit of perspective for you. Like what Derek was saying, it really would only take you 4, maybe 5 hours to get through Midgar on your first playthrough, and yet somehow they have almost multiplied this time by 10. I don't know how. I am leaving judgment up though, because they could sneak some Crisis Core stuff in. They could sneak some stuff in. I don't know.
There's a lot of ways.
I have faith, but I am very skeptical.
Yeah, I agree that there's a lot of ways to. I don't even want to use the word pad because it gives a negative connotation. There are a lot of ways to add more time to Midgar. And the reason I even say this is because part of it you got to look at is, who do they bring back? And one of the things they made sure they did with this is that they brought back the original person who worked on the game, the original director, alongside a new director, so that does get a fresh coat of eyes. So one of the things they've been saying about this, and this is more of why I'm not incredibly scared and kind of just like, well, it is what they said they were going to do. So at least they're being consistent with their own, messaging right now, is that is from the get-go is always going to be parts. We knew that from day one. So I appreciate that. They were really adamant in saying, hey, this is not going to be one game. We're not going
Right.
to say how many, and I feel like that's they don't want to paint themselves into a corner for whatever reason. Just, hey, let's work on the game. We know it's not going to be 2 parts. Maybe we'll see how far we get in the remake in the first one and what feels natural as an end and how much content there is and all this stuff and go off of that. Or maybe it's just, you never know. It could literally just be that they don't paint themselves into a corner.
Yeah, and it's hard to talk about it too without being super spoilerific for those that haven't played it that are wanting to play it.
I'm not gonna go too far into spoilers. So.
Yeah, and so for an example, I've been playing 7 on the Switch, and I have just now I've beaten the final boss, quote unquote, of Midgar, the last boss you fight before you begin to leave, and I am barely over 2 hours in. Granted, I played the game before, so I know where to go. I actually think I'm almost closer to 3 hours.
And
in.
you're playing on 3 times speed, right?
No.
Okay.
No, if you play on 3 times speed, the clock is 3 times speed. Everything's 3 times speed.
Oh, is it?
So it's just quicker
I've never
to
done
get
it.
around.
Yeah, I've never done it.
Yeah, so if you play on 3 times speed, your time bar moves at 3 times speed, but so does the enemies.
That's interesting.
So so it just speeds the game up. So maybe if you're grinding out battles or something, it's just faster.
Sure.
But yeah, so I will say that like I am worried because there is, I'm sure there's stuff they can add, but with the way that they do Sephiroth in the original version, I don't really think what we see in the trailer. There's obviously a minor spoiler, not even really a spoiler, but something that happens in the original game is that Cloud often has visions or these moments in which he seizes up and he hears himself talking to himself in a way. That one I won't really say much about.
Yeah,
but,
because you got to be real cagey on that.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that is. I mean, I could see them doing that out in cutscenes, but I really don't know what they can do to make this literally 10 times longer than what it is. It's going to be hard because it's going to feel like for me that no matter what, it's going to feel padded out because it's just extra content. What they could do to excel this is that they can make this content phenomenal and make it not feel like 40 hours or make it even so that like there's not much you can really learn about. I mean, I guess you could learn more about Shinra maybe.
There is a lot you can do.
Yeah.
But I want to let you finish your point before, because I think you might be working to a point that I want to make already. So go ahead.
I'm just worried more so about the actual content time. I'm worried about how long it'll take to get the second episode. I'm worried that if I beat this in 40 hours, then I have to wait another 1.5 to 2 years to get the second episode.
And I really do personally on that remark, I do think that we'll see, because we saw it with 13, and 13 was a trilogy that was all tied together and the way they did it. And 13, every part of 13 released 18 months apart.
Yeah.
Now
that's too long.
It's too long. Okay, how do I figure this out? It's not too long for me, but I completely understand what you mean by it's too long.
It's too long for a singular story.
It's too long for a lot of people who are still viewing this in their head because you have no other frame of reference.
Well, and the thing,
as to how can this be more?
The thing is,
so the original is one game. So
right.
In your mind, I get it. Is that the reason it seems too long is you already have the entire story to work off of.
But that's the people that are most excited about. Yeah, that's
you're
the
right.
most excited.
You are right.
Group of people that are excited for this game is the people who've played it before. So we're literally going to get through Midgar in 40 hours, which to me that just sounds like it's going to be hard to do. That's not a drag. It just sounds like that's hard to do.
I understand.
And I'm excited to see what they do, but I'm going to remain skeptical about it. I still don't think that they should have done this way. I think that this game could have been released as like a $120 master collection thing where you get everything, and then there is everything in the game. There is no episodes, nothing like that. I would have waited an extra 2 years to get it based off what we have now. Now, if they come out and say, this is only 6 months apart from each other, you get episode 2 and, whatever, I guess technically
they might
like
minimize
June.
it to a year. And honestly, even a year isn't awful.
April, June,
you know what I mean?
April, May, June, July, August.
And dude,
September.
If we're being honest, 18, so think about 13. And you remember how long 13 was?
13 was about 35 to 45 hours.
Exactly. All right, that's a long game. By today's standards, that's
today's
not common.
standard, not our standards.
Yes.
Because when you think about it, God of War
was 40 something.
Yeah, and we got
hours.
it within a week done.
Yeah,
so then
of course,
and that's our fault technically
for
going through a game so fast.
But
that's how everybody's going.
More importantly, how long did it take them to make that 40-hour game?
3 years, because they restarted development 3 years ago, didn't they? 2 years ago?
Are you talking about for Final Fantasy?
Yeah.
I'm talking about for God of War.
I'm talking about for Final Fantasy.
Yeah, but God of War was also from the ground up everything new. Whereas Final Fantasy VII
development, that became a very similar issue.
Well, hold on. What I mean by that is that God of War, there wasn't a pre-made template for God of War For it was 40 hours.
For there to be 40 hours
Hold
in
on, hold on,
Midgar,
hold on, hold on. Let me get my point across. It took them 5 years because on God of War, they're making an entirely new story and figuring out how to completely change a game. This one, when they scrap development, ostensibly puts it at 3 years of development time, right? But that works out because they have somewhat of a guideline because of the original and the fact that this is a remake but also a reimagining.
It's similar though when you think about it. It's that the core value of the gameplay stripped away and it's different. So that's completely from the ground up gameplay. The story at this point for the storyboard is completely different.
Yes, but now
not completely zero or
one of the things that we don't know, and I am really curious, and I'm not saying it's for sure, right? One of the things we genuinely don't know is I'm going to start with what we do know. What we do know and what they started with is saying that they brought back the original producer and there was a lot of things they wanted to do with the original. It may not be. But
I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying that's not always a good thing.
Exactly. But when they brought him back, one of the things they did when they were talking about it, the reason they even wanted to bring him back and most of the people who worked on the original is that a lot of things that wanted to be in the game were completely unable to be in the game due to time, due to having to move development from 64 to PlayStation 1, due to having to deal with the limitations of the time.
And I know that.
So
I get it
makes you wonder, and it's hard, right? When a game is iconic and been around for 20 years, it's hard to imagine that everything they're putting in this game could have been ideas. Could have been. I'm not saying that they are.
Right.
Could have been ideas that they originally wanted to do in the original and just couldn't.
So how similar does that game feel at that point, right?
Yeah, and that's what I was about to get to. To answer his question as best I honestly can, the only thing that you can really do with that is get in the camp of one or the other. Either you're going to be where you currently are and be worried and still buy it and just hope for the best based off of someone who wants it to be as faithful to the original as possible.
That'd be me.
Or go, this is a remake / reimagining, and they continue to say that. So they're being very adamant about what at least it is. So at this point, do you prefer that it stays? Would you have preferred, I guess, because now we know what it is, would you have preferred that it stayed closer to the original and didn't add a damn thing? Or are you okay with them trying to make the vision as close as what they wanted? And it doesn't mean that this is going to end up being the better of the two games for you or for anybody for that sake. But I think that they're clearly in the second camp, and you either join them in that camp and just get as excited as you can for what that is, which is a lot of mystery. Or you just sit in the one camp of saying, I'm going to play it because I have a lot of love for that game, but right now at this stage, until we learn more, I can't get comfortably behind it because I just don't know enough. And I think that, sadly, you're in that position. You're stuck because I completely see both standpoints, but as somebody who thinks that the original 7, even though it's good, has a lot of spots that need to be filled in, and I think that doing so with stuff from Crisis Core and actually elaborating more on certain aspects, like giving us more about Shinra, why they're doing what they're doing,
and Soldier.
What happens in terms of giving us more insight to what the live stream is and how materia works and all these things. These are all things that can be explored in really cool ways and really fun ways and make Midgar happen, but in a very different play out. But I also want to say it seems very likely that the way that this story goes is it's almost like the Ratchet and Clank 2016, where it is a reimagining of the first Ratchet and Clank game, but that does not mean the story happens the same way. Yeah. So it takes liberties. And one thing I think might happen is I actually think, crazily enough, that we might get multiple Sephiroth boss fights across the games. And what I mean by that is I think Sephiroth may actually end up being the final boss of this game, but it's not the end of Sephiroth in this story. And I think that they're taking liberties with the story, and maybe this is what they originally wanted to do and couldn't. Again, we don't know. But I do think that you're going to have to deal with the fact that because of what you're seeing in Midgar becoming 40 to 50 hours, or even 30 to 40 hours, it's still a big chunk different. It's anywhere from 8 to 10 times as much as the original. But if they're doing so much that they're changing some parts of the story to fit that dream, but still keeping the overall tone of the story and what they were going for similar, I could see it working out, but we're just in the dark, and that's the sad truth.
There is a little theory that I have, and that is that at the times of which I'm going to
we're going to fight Kadaj.
Which, that'd be cool, even though not canon.
Well, the thing is, none of the old things are canon to this. Like, they're all canon to each other.
They're all canon in the 7 universe, but this isn't included.
But 7 is in a new universe.
Cluster muck of everything. But, when Cloud has those moments of mental despair, I actually think that that's when we're going to see Sephiroth manifest. Well, we see him in the trailer. I'm pretty sure that's what that is.
Yes.
But Moving on to
agree.
Discord, we have Bedwards530. He says, what is y'all's favorite memory from Brett's old house in the country? Mine is when we used to make those ridiculous rap songs.
Okay, that was Brandon, by the way. So Brandon, he is
a good patron, and
he's a patron, and he's a longtime friend. So Brandon, thanks for the question, buddy, and thanks for supporting us. We love you. I love this question just because it's so ridiculous and it's so tied into. It's honestly, it's a great question because I don't think without him being in this, I'm not sure that anyone would have ever asked a question that would have led to this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, Brandon, mine is very closely tied to those really ridiculous rap songs. They are bad. They're funny.
You still have the MP3 of Seth
but they're
rapping
bad.
on
I
there?
have all of them.
You have Seth rapping?
Yes, I do.
Good gracious.
Speaking of which, I got to talk to you about Seth, but we'll get to that in a minute.
I think I know what it's about, isn't it? Is it about Scizor? What'd he say?
We'll talk about it later. Anyway.
Is he mad at me because he believed in his entire life?
No.
Okay.
You're ruining it now. If he watches this, you're ruined. Anyway, while I really like those and those were fun, I actually got to say I think the most fun I ever had at the house, and it was so ridiculous, and it's so tied into being a young person with a house to yourself and with a bunch of friends who just come over to your house and wreck crap. We used to do, and I don't think you ever came over for these, Brandon. I'm pretty sure you weren't around at that point. You might have been for one though. We did Nerf Wars at the house.
The few times I've done that was fun,
dude. That was. I
think I only did it with y'all like 3 times.
So what we would do is we would
Total
get like
darkness.
8 people coming over, and we'd have every light in the house off, and it'd be midnight. And then what we would do is we all had Nerf guns of different things. We had pistols that had little lasers that you could use.
Who got shot in the eye? Was it Blaze or Seth?
Andrew, like
Andrew.
8 times in the same night. It was magic. I don't know how. It's one of those things where things just happen that shouldn't be physically possible, but because you have a bunch of people being idiotic in a room, they just start to happen. So the setup was this: one person or 2 people, a group of people, would be considered the outsiders, and they'd go outside, wait on the front porch, give everybody time to kind of get into their own position and hide or whatever. And the premise was so dumb. It was like they were cops, and we're like thieves and robbers and criminals that are hiding and trying to get away from the law or whatever. And it was a battle of who could kill who. So you could kill the cop who was coming in.
That was like 5 years ago, by the way,
Yes.
folks. Maybe 6 years ago.
Yeah. 6 years ago is pretty close. It was 2013, 2014.
Something like that, yeah.
So anyway, that would be the setup. And then the people from out in the porch would come in. It'd be a little actually brighter outside. So you'd come into a pitch black house, and we had blackout curtains all across the house. You couldn't see a damn thing. And it was so funny because the way my house is set up is it was like all open. Here is a big open living room, and right beside that was like it was separate but not with a wall, but it was like a dining room, and then there was a bar into the kitchen. And that was all open, but the bar kind of hid a little bit of the kitchen. And then there was a hallway, and there was bedrooms, and we had a music room, Seth's room at the time, and then my room. And we would all just hide in various places, and the cop would come in, whoever it was, and you had a gun with a pistol, and you had a laser that you could try and use to figure out what you were doing. But no holds bar. You could do whatever you wanted. And probably my favorite one of it is tied between 2 of them because it's just really hard to choose. So it's the one where that night we were playing with Michael, and we had Andrew over there. And this is the one you're talking about.
With the eye.
Where but when we first started this, we never wore eye protection. And
you say first started. I don't think we ever did.
No, we never did, actually.
Yeah.
I think Andrew ended up doing it because he kept getting hit in the eye. For some reason that night,
Andrew got mad.
He got hit in the eye. It wasn't 8 times, but it was 3
at least
times
3 or
in the
4.
same night.
Yeah.
And it was one of them was so impossible that
Michael
we all
did
died
it,
laughing.
Didn't Michael do it every time? That's what I thought.
And it was so funny because one of it that happened is that so Andrew was hiding in Seth's bedroom. It was the end of a hallway. Like, you have a hallway going down, and if you're standing looking down the hallway, there's a door right there in the hallway. That was Seth's room. It was cracked, and Andrew had the door cracked and had his eye looking out to see if he could see Michael. And at that moment, Michael shot the gun and threw a crack of about 1.5 inches. It just right into his eye, which was magical.
I think I was in the bathroom at that point, and I got scared that somebody had gotten hurt with how loud Andrew was. I was either in the bathroom, I was in your master bathroom.
Yeah, you could have been in either. But that's very closely tied, though, and I don't know which one's better. This is Seth, so Saul's little brother, who was my friend before me and Saul were friends. But he lived with me at the time, and what was going on was I don't think you were there for that one. You and Michael weren't. I don't think, but you might have been
For the one with Andrew?
No, this is with Bo.
Oh no, I didn't.
Okay, I didn't think so. There was Bo, Jonathan, everybody was over, and what we were doing is that Bo was the cop.
Oh, no.
So Bo went outside, and then Bo came back in, and he looked around for a few minutes, and he had a hunch that Seth was in the kitchen. Or I don't even know if it was a hunch for Seth, but he thought someone was in the kitchen. So his way to check it out was to open his phone, turn on this like red and blue flashing light, and slide it into the kitchen. Well, Seth has a form of epilepsy that we've not been able to completely confirm, but flashing lights make his body like legit tense up to where he can't move. And so he was standing in the kitchen with his gun up, and Bo takes his phone, turns the flashing light on, and just slides it into my kitchen on the linoleum floor. And you just see it slide right to the bottom of Seth's feet, and it's directly in Seth's face. Seth looks down and goes, "Oh, fuck." And then like a brick wall just fucking fell on his face and had like a little mini seizure. And it was, of course, terrible that he was having a seizure, but it was so funny that the happenstance worked that way that it was just
completely fine now.
Unforgettable. All right, we got another one here.
We do. Good old buddy Josh Shoop says, what in your minds is better of a memorial boss fight who had better music? Kefka from Final Fantasy VI or Sephiroth from Final Fantasy VII? This is undisputed.
You know, I think me and Saul are completely in
Kefka
agreement.
is the best boss fight. One Winged Angel is the best villain song from any media, movie, show, video game ever made.
I agree 100%. And the reason that we say that, and I know that there was some talk from Liam about Kefka's theme being really cool, and it is.
It is.
Not saying
it is cool. It's
cool.
just not
it's great.
memorable
But here's the
compared
problem.
to One Winged Angel.
One Winged Angel is literally iconic.
And you literally fight a twisted Joker that is Kefka.
Yeah. Did you see this thing? I shared it the other day. It was a Facebook post that was going on, but it's actually hilarious. It's
apparently not.
Look, it's Final Fantasy in a nutshell, and the description for 6 is so apt. Star Wars, but the Emperor is killed and replaced by the Joker halfway through. Racism is bad.
That is,
dude,
perfect. Talking about the espers and everything.
It's so good. But yeah, that's.
Did you share that in Discord?
No, I don't think I did. That was just in the Facebook. But there were a lot of funny ones. I could show you some more. But yeah, I agree with Saul. Kefka is a great, amazing boss fight, and I also think the 6 is an amazing game. I'm actually replaying through it right now and enjoying it very much. Outside of the loading that I did not realize PS1 had so badly. It's just weird in a time where disc-based games aren't actually disc-based. They download, so they load way quicker. But with that said, yeah, the One Winged Angel is just... And part of it's because Kingdom Hearts making Sephiroth more known outside. But dude, 7 is just... Because of 7's popularity, it made One Winged Angel, which is also an amazing song, that much more known. So it just has this point where it has an impact on more people. But next question up, we have a patron, Atlas Unchained. He asked, what, in your opinion, of course, is the funniest dirty joke you know?
I don't have any dirty jokes.
Let's hear it. Man, see... a lot of them just exist because they're ridiculous. I think the one that always just makes me laugh because of how dumb it is, they often get mentioned in TV because of how ridiculous they are. So The Office actually does one of them, which is the witch's broomstick joke.
Yeah,
and I'm sure everyone knows that, but why does the witch wear panties so she can grip the broomstick? Which is a funny joke. I mean, realistically,
I just think of the witches in Witcher 3 at that point. Yucky.
Oh, God. But the other one that was also mentioned, and it was mentioned in How I Met Your Mother, is... hold on. I've got to look it up because I know it, but I don't want to mess it up.
I have a good anti-joke. You want to hear it?
Go ahead.
Okay. So, growing up, me, Seth, and Chase, we were all hanging out in the little development behind the neighborhood that was being built with new houses. I don't know if I told you this anti-joke.
Oh, yeah. I don't know how. I knew it, but I just want to be sure I said it right. But go ahead.
But we got bored one day, and it just had rained, so we normally go and explore the abandoned houses that they're currently building, and we saw that there was a lot of red clay, really, really wet red clay, so we thought we'd have a strength contest. We picked a brick up. We would think, how could we do this? We just throw the brick in the ground and see how far it goes. That won't work. So what we decided to do was basically granny throw it straight up in the air and let it hit the ground, right? And then whoever sinks the farthest, their brick wins. I go over there, throw it straight up in the air. Comes back down and lands about 4 inches into the dirt. Not too bad, but not too great. Seth goes over there, throws it up, comes down, lands about 1.5 inches, 2 inches in the dirt. Not too bad, not too great. Chase goes over there. Chase walks over there all smug and confident.
Is this a real story?
No, this is an anti-joke.
Okay, I'm making sure.
Chase throws the brick straight up in the air. Just there, it comes back down. Anti-joke.
Okay.
What was your joke there?
And like I said, TV mentions it. So technically, it's not on How I Met Your Mother. They actually don't include the punchline because it's more funny that they don't do it that way. The joke, and I've heard it outside of that too, is what's the difference? So bad between peanut butter and jam.
That is my favorite adult joke.
It's so stupid.
It is.
The difference is I can't peanut butter my dick up your ass.
Yeah.
It's a golden joke. I mean,
is.
honestly, and I'm 99% sure you know it.
Oh.
But it's funny.
I have a new one. Or I have one.
What's up?
So a woman is traveling down the street of New York, and the guy stops her in the middle of an alley and says, "Hey, let me show you something." Whips open his trench coat, has an exotic-looking parakeet in his trench coat. He says, "This parakeet's worth $20,000." Now, this is about the 1960s in New York. Actually, I'd say about 1970s going into the 80s in New York. And she needs some cash for Christmas. So, of course, she says, "Yeah, I'll buy it. How much?" He says, $500. He said, "But the only way you can sell this is if you travel to Cuba and you sell it at the black market." So the woman says, "Oh, okay. I guess I'll just go buy a plane ticket then." So she buys the parakeet and the plane ticket. And on her way to the airport with the parakeet, she realizes something. How is she going to get this parakeet on board? So she does what anybody else would do. She goes into the mall and buys a big old nice jacket and puts the parakeet in the jacket and zips it up, gets on the plane. So, of course, this is way back then where actually pilots did this, and pilot was walking around up and down the aisles checking on everybody. He goes up to the woman and says, "Everything okay with your flight? You doing okay?" And she said, "Yep." And then he started walking away here, and then turned around, said, "Ma'am, are you okay?" And she kind of tugging at her jacket and said, "Yeah, I'm fine." And was like, "Okay," and started walking away, and little parakeet sound again, turned around and said, "Ma'am, are you trying to smuggle animals on this plane?" And she said, "No, I'm not crazy. What are you talking about?" So the guy said, "Ma'am, I need you to go ahead and open up your jacket and let me see." So she opens up the jacket. And, of course, the illegal parakeet right there, plain in sight. Pilot takes the parakeet, says, "You're not allowed to have this on this plane," rips open a window, throws the parakeet out. Parakeet's gone.
This joke has no logical boundaries.
It doesn't. It really doesn't. So about 10 minutes later, the pilot comes back and smoking a Cuban cigar, something that is not commonly legal back then in the United States. I don't know if they're legal now.
They're not.
So woman stands up real quick and shouts and says, "You threw my bird out the window for being illegal. You have an illegal cigar in your mouth." Pilot says, "I'm the pilot of this plane. I'll do what I want." Starts to walk away. Lady goes over there and pecks at his shoulder with her fingers and says, "Give me that cigar." And he just looks at her confidently and says, "No." She rips it out of his lips, opens up a window, and throws the cigar at the plane. They get into a big old arguing and yelling match. Everything's said and done. He shouts for her to go back to her seat. He's dropping her off at the next airport they come across. He goes back, sits at the cockpit of the plane, and begins to start flying the plane again. And 3 hours later passes by, starts to get real heavy storm. Something hits his windshield. What hits his windshield?
The bird?
The brick. That Rooster Teeth, that joke came from a Rooster Teeth podcast, and I freaking loved it.
It is so terrible.
It was, but it's like...
Well, I hope none of you have ever watched the Rooster Teeth podcast that came from, because it wouldn't have had much going for you.
No, yeah.
That's one of those jokes that's so stupid, because it's one of those ones that you have to tell such a story.
Yeah, and then
you have to get people lost in the story.
Yeah, because they're not going to say the brick. I told that to Annie. She's like, "What brick?" And I'm like, never mind.
What's worse is we answered questions between these.
Yeah. So we only have a couple more left on Discord. El Chabib, our good buddy, says, "Do you guys use any specific game lists you plan to buy or play in the future? I used to use one, but the app developer stopped supporting it and was open for suggestions." No,
I actually have never thought about that. So essentially an app that has every game listed where you can kind of go in and say, I want to put this on a future buy list so that next time that I'm thinking
something like a wish list, that may tell you the prices and stuff. No, I've never used anything like that before.
Well, I don't even know what the price is, but even just having something to where you don't forget a game because you can, in the moment, you can say, let me pull my phone out because you always have it on you and say, oh, this game looks interesting, but it's not a huge game, so I likely won't see it advertised again. Let me go ahead and put it in this app so that next time I'm in a gaming lull or have time or have some money and there's nothing immediately that I want, I can look at this app and go, oh yeah, there's that game.
Maybe back
and
when
I think there's a really good use for that, but I've never done it. So I'm sorry I don't have a suggestion for you, but if anything, you've just suggested to me that this is something I should look into because I do occasionally let games go by for a long time. I was very late to Hollow Knight because it just came out at a weird time, even though I wanted to play it from launch. So.
Yeah, and I don't really ever use anything like that. So for anybody that does know or that does use something like this, let Brett and El Chabib know. I'm interested in kind of hearing about it too.
All right, next one from El Chabib. Again, and I like this one. He says, okay, triangle squared Brett, triangle squared Saul. Oh, sorry. Hold up.
That's why I skipped
That's the one we just did. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So El Chabib, you actually had that question answered because that was our main topic for episode 116.
There is one thing that I wanted to bring up about E3 that I didn't, and there's one in particular.
Well, hold on. Does it fit into the community's take question that we're answering in next episode? Okay.
No, and it's only about one part of his question that I wish I would have answered because I had thought about it, and then we got into the episode and we were trying to hurry because it's Father's Day and you needed to go and I needed to go.
Are you talking about the back part?
The next Xbox reveal. And the one thing I want to say about that is that it was overall, even though I still give Microsoft credit, the problem with it is that if anything, I actually think Sony did it better by letting it not be a huge thing that they bring up and waste time with on an E3 stage and in a press conference, and instead just going, hey, you know what? We have an article that we just put out on a random day. Didn't even hype it up. Nobody knew it was coming. Here you go. And they actually gave us a little bit more detail than even Xbox did. So I think in a bigger sense, that was actually another lull to me for the Xbox thing because I get why I think that they kind of had to do it. PlayStation had already revealed their card and kind of took their ability to do it when they wanted to away to an extent. So, of course, they kind of go back by, well, it's E3. Everybody already knows what the competition's doing. We have to reaffirm our console now. But I would have preferred them to not show it in that sense. I actually would have preferred very similar to what they did with the PS4 Pro, where they just talked about it like a week before E3.
Yeah.
And they just
that wasn't like a meeting, too, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it was...
Well, like a presentation, but it wasn't a gaming presentation. It was like a marketing presentation.
Something like that, yeah. But either way, it just... I don't know. And I'm probably remembering it wrong, actually. I can't honestly remember. I think what it was maybe was talking about PS5, but there was a point in time where they said, yeah, we're not going to talk about that at E3 because there's no point to, and here's the information that's pertinent. And I thought that was honestly better. I think that even if Xbox would have just essentially copied PlayStation and just getting a journalist to come through with an exclusive interview that's going to get a lot of attention and say, hey, here's our stuff, and actually show something. That's the other thing. If anything, Sony's takeaway that you got to see was a developer who got to witness one of the biggest touted features, which is the improved load times due to the SSD, the custom SSD, and that gets you to a point where it's like, okay, there was more substance to that, and it felt like a more rewarding read and announcement than what Xbox ended up doing, but it is what it is. Okay, next question up, we got two more. And this is Bobo May, so Mr. Josh Shoop, he says, as it is clear that you guys are both fans of Slipknot, what do you think is the best album, and what is your favorite song overall? Liam and I found that band very, I'm assuming he meant early, with their first record, and at that time it was just a very small group of people in our school that knew about them. It was a very exciting time, no doubt in my mind, though. I would say that my favorite is the first record for that reason, Eeyore Taking the Cake. Literally everything about that song is epically cool. Eeyore is amazing. The first album is amazing, but it's so weird. This might come with time. I think that might be some of it. I loved the first album, and it had a huge impact on me. But I discovered them with Iowa, so it might be the same problem that you're having there for me in thinking of the first album as their pinnacle, is that I found them on what I believe to be their pinnacle. But here's the thing. I found them with Iowa. I went back and listened to the first album and fell in love with it hard. And I actually liked it more than Iowa for a long time. Then Volume 3 came out, and I loved Volume 3. It was all I would listen to for about a year and a half. And then I picked back up on Iowa for some reason, and it was amazing. And it was like, for an album I know, since it's been years since I first found them, it somehow sits with me in a way different sense. And it hit at the middle of my teenage years, and that album is really crazy and angsty and dark and brutal in a lot of weird ways. And I think what it is for me is that as iconic as both of them really truly are, I think that they literally hit their stride with Iowa in a way that more represents what they are now than it did than their first album does. Their first album is so wrapped up in the new metal rap rock thing, and there's a lot of songs that represent that, but that's not really something you see in any album past it. So I'll give it that it's really unique, and I love it for that reason. And I think that album is just as iconic in terms of imagery and stuff like that. And of course, it gives you songs like "Wait and Bleed," which are amazing. But I think when you move through and look at Iowa is probably when the band was at their worst point in their life in a lot of ways, and I think that shines through in a lot of ways. Even some things down, I think it's easily between those two, though, and that a lot of the way it comes through with Ross Robinson's mixing and the way that he chooses to do production on a record. I love it. It's visceral. It's raw. All of my favorite Korn albums were done by him. When he came back for Korn and did Korn 3, Remember Who You Are, it was an amazing return to form for them. And I'm actually a little sad that the new album has not been confirmed yet as to whether or not Ross Robinson is working on it. I really hope that he is for Slipknot's new album. But Iowa, definitely the best record. Favorite song, and this is very personal. I love Disaster Pieces. That song, there's something about that little interlude kind of bridge that they do where the song slows down and it kind of has that little bass line, that dun 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 dun. And then it kind of has that, like, Corey goes to clean, but like kind of eerie sounding singing. And it's like, pull your hands away, I'm gone. That song, dude, it hits me hard. I love that song. It's so good. Great question.
I'm going to have to go with first album because that's the first time I found out about them. I had the first album on my iPod Shuffle, the original iPod Shuffle, back in the day, the one that looked like a stick of gum. Wait and Bleed is is the song that I found out about that, and I'll say that is one of my favorite albums just due to the nature of it being in a late 90s and jammed with that early 2000 late 90s new metal style sounding that everybody did, and that's the era of music I really like with early Linkin Park and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite album, however, though, is going to be a curveball, and it is also going to be one of the most unpopular albums for people, but All Hope Is Gone.
That is weird.
Yeah, and it's just mainly because that is more of a nostalgia of my high school stuff. Whole album came out during high school years for me.
If I'm looking at nostalgia, there's a big nostalgia with All Hope Is Gone, and it was probably the height of my Slipknot because at that point, I remember going into that album, and it's like I was a Slipknot addict. It's like I knew everything. I knew, and it was really weird because you're a teenager and you get really obsessed with stuff as a teenager. And it's kind of like Kingdom Hearts. I just knew everything about in high school.
Well, it's like one of those things that drives you to look at more and more and more, and you got to discover everything.
Yeah, and it's like I need to know each one of their names and what guitar they're playing and what their haircut is, and it's like it's weird. It's essentially the man version of little girls typically getting really hooked into pop stars.
Yeah. My favorite song, though, however, is not Wait and Bleed. That's my second favorite song. My favorite song is Before I Forget.
No, Before I Forget's a banger.
It is.
That song is so good.
But that's not even on.
It's Volume 3.
I thought it was Volume 2.
I mean, Volume 3 is the name of the album, but no, Iowa is their second album. But Before I Forget was the first time that they started showing their faces. You remember the music video for it where they do you saw Corey's cheek at the bottom of his, and you saw Paul's hairline. It was really weird. But at the time, no one knew what they looked like still, really,
See, they do the weird thing that I don't really like it when artists do. It's a Coheed way of naming things, or it's part 1, part 2. They just have parts in there.
They've normally not done that.
I know. I'm talking about
Volume 3 was there, and that was just kind of a tie-in, and then they had, of course, Vermilion Part 1 and Part 2, but that was not a normal thing for them.
Wasn't Vermilion Part 2 the one with
Vermilion Part 2 was just a song, and it was the acoustic counteract and resolution to Vermilion Part 1, which is heavy and drenched in atmosphere. I love that song.
Vermilion versus Volume.
Volume
is
3,
what I'm thinking of.
The subliminal verses.
Yeah.
All Hope Is Gone, though, dude. There's a part on there, dude. The song, and I know it, and it's gonna kill me that I can't think of the name right now. And it's
what year did that come out? 2004.
What are you talking about? Volume 3?
Yeah.
Yeah. The song on All Hope Is Gone that
Duality's
is so
also
badass
too.
Is the song that starts off with the "Thou shalt not kill your father." Dude, that song is dope. I remember the first time it's Wherein Lies Continue. I didn't have to finish it, looking it up, of course. It's how it always goes.
I I was gonna say that's not maggots, but
that song, Pulse of the Maggots, is one you're talking about, I guess. But no, dude, that song on All Hope Is Gone is killer. Oh, it's so good. Because it's just like, I remember the first time it went on. There's a lot of songs on the album that are really good, but that was the first part of the song that I was like, oh, this is dirty, and I love it. Great question. And we got one more by Mr. El Chabib. It's our last one. It says, when playing persistent online games, what makes you move to the next one? Is it the community that is forming around it? Is it the fresh gameplay? Is it the fame of the game? Or is it the future roadmap? Anything else?
A healthy mixture of all of it. Mainly, 80% of that is going to be community / people I play with. Mm-hmm. If nobody played Destiny, it'd be a lot harder for me to play Destiny every day. I'd still do it, but it would be a lot harder. The roadmap is super important. Knowing what we're getting in Shadowkeep is one reason that I still want to strive and play this game. Fame of the game makes sense because it more players online.
Yep.
And the gameplay is, of course, as I said before, Destiny 2, the Destiny series has some of the best, if not the two best definitive versions of what I like in a first-person shooter. The gameplay.
Now, I knew that was going to be your answer. It's kind of like a mix of all of his. I'm a little different. Now, one that definitely does matter, I think, in any game that's like this, any game that is persistent that you're meant to play a lot, is always going to be easier to play when you have people that you know who play it. Yeah. Because it kind of makes playing it be a secondary way of hanging out with your friends. It's very odd.
That was hard for me with Anthem, too, because when you think about it, I would always try to play Anthem when nobody else was online. I was just like, this is boring because nobody else is playing.
Yeah, sure. See, now for me, gameplay and interest in the story. And while I don't think that Destiny's bad at any of that, I actually think Destiny's getting better at all of that. I think Destiny obviously has good, fun gameplay, but, and this is going to be a weirdly unpopular opinion, I think at the very, very core, I'm not even going to say that it's better. I prefer Anthem's gameplay at its very core. But the problem with that is that gameplay is not reinforced with all the other things that are supposed to be happening in these types of games, which is loot that you want to get that drastically changes the way you play. If anything, the difference between those two games, and I know I'm using those two as an example, but they're just really pertinent because I played a lot of both.
Well,
they're
also, it's a really good
I played 80 hours
comparison.
or more of Anthem, and that's... And Saul hasn't. So I just, going between that, the reasoning is that Anthem for me called to me in different ways than I like Destiny. I really enjoy it, but Saul loves Destiny.
Yeah. And what's interesting about that comparison too is you have a games as a service that has been wildly successful through downtimes, and then you've had a games as a service that's been wildly a failure even though it had uptimes.
Yeah.
So it's a very But
I also think it's a little,
I guess you call it a duality going back to us.
I'll push my fingers into my eyes, but I'm sure that somebody's made that joke about Anthem somehow, some way. That makes me want to push my finger into my eyes. But the thing about Anthem is, and I do think you're right at the moment, right? But the only thing about Anthem is I still think, and it shouldn't be this way, we should have a clearer idea of whether it's going to be around for a while or not. But I still think it's too early to completely call Anthem out. I just feel like it needs it's not even been 6 months, which is crazy to think, right?
Their roadmap is kind of scary.
It is. And there's no reason for a lot of people to believe it. But I still think that there is a way for them to turn it around because Destiny's year one was essentially nothing. If you really, really think about it.
Destiny's year one was really
I was talking about Destiny 1 year one had a huge issue.
Oh, I don't know. I'm just comparing it to Destiny 2, which was still weak, but it was greater in the fact that we actually got a raid pretty quickly.
Yes. And I also bring it back to the thing where I get why you're kind of comparing the two because, like I said, my big hope for Anthem always, and it was a little bit of my optimism shining through, was that they were going to be smart enough to pay attention to other people, their contemporaries in this space, so like The Division and Destiny and Warfare and these things, and realize from those games what worked, what didn't work, and what to avoid. And we now know that they did not do that at all. And that sucks. But that is a good reason as to why you kind of do have to prepare or compare Destiny 2 to Anthem. And why you even have to an extent, compare Destiny 2 to Destiny 1. Right. It's like they made the same mistakes over again.
It is. And what's crazy is that they've made the same mistakes, but with different solutions that worked really well.
Yes.
It's crazy. But Josh Shoup, you got a question up next about Final Fantasy that we'll be answering as our very first Discord question in the next episode. So you guys be sure to stick around for that. We'd like to thank you all for joining us with episode 12 of Reader Mail. We'll see you guys back for episode 13. And if not, we'll see you guys back for episode 117, the most coincidental number for a PlayStation podcast ever created. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Thanks to our patrons, Chad V, Dan Barber, Josh Jarrell, Matthew Green, my name is Dan, Douglas Below, Sean Santarud, Eric McAllister, Matt Sycamore, Shadowist, Steven Salazar, The Stonard, Travis Below, Eduardo Palomino, Stefan Swanlin, Coy Live, Philip LaGuerre, Corey Hickerson, Brian, Donovan Williams, William Digital Spooker, Derek Porter, Josh Ayers, Thomas McKinnis, Brandon Edwards, and Sean One Neo. I finally got you on there, baby. If you would like to support us with as little as $1, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Nartech or by visiting the link in the description below. We appreciate you.